Hello, I'm Sabrina Braham, founder of Women's Leadership Success Radio. I am really excited about what I'm sharing with you today. I'm constantly hunting for the best leaders and the most successful people to interview that will help you in your career and at work. I read 30 to 40 business books a year, attend conferences, get referrals from top leaders, all to advance my knowledge and to help you too. I've just discovered one of the best books I've read in years. The person you are about to meet is one of my all-time favorite authors, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. Listen to this interview to find out why.
Welcome to Women's Leadership Podcast, showing you how to influence people, improve your performance, and advance your career. Brought to you by women's leadership and career expert Sabrina Braham and womensleadershipsuccess.com. Here's your chance to meet women trendsetters leading the way to success, accomplishment, and balance in business and life. No matter if you're a manager, CEO, or entrepreneur, join Sabrina for coaching and no-nonsense advice to improve your career and bottom line.
This is womensleadershipsuccess.com radio, and today we're talking to Faisal Hoque. He's a serial entrepreneur, a leading innovation thought leader, and author. Faisal is the founder of Shadoka, Mind-to-Mind, Exchange, B2B Foresight, and other companies. He is a devoted student of life, entrepreneurship, and humanity. He left Bangladesh at the age of 17 and now calls America his home. Formerly of GE and other global brands, Hoque is the author of several innovation and management leadership books and is a regular contributor to Fast Company and the Huffington Post. His new book is Everything Connects: How to Transform and Lead in the Age of Creativity, Innovation, and Sustainability. Welcome, Faisal.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure. As I was saying to you a minute ago, not only did I read your book, but I've read it 3 times, and every time I get more and more out of it. It's one of the best books I've read in years, and I'm very excited about talking to you today. And I wonder if you could share with us what was your incentive to write this book?
Well, first, I'm honored that you read it so many times and you found it meaningful. I just like everybody else, you go through several transitions in your life, and you go through some sort of a transformation one way or another. This book came after me going through a different stage of my life and questioning myself what I should be focused on next and how should I perceive what my value is to the globe as a whole, and what is it that I can do with my whatever things that I can contribute. That kind of drove me to look inside of myself and define what value means and how I can contribute to the rest of the world. That's where it came from.
How long did it take you to write the book?
I think in my head I've been writing this book for several years. But I was sitting in a airport going from one place to another, and there was a 6-7 hours layover. So I just sat there and put together the outline. Sometimes in December of 2012 or 2012 time frame, and then we approached my publisher, meaning McGraw-Hill. And once they wanted to do the book, I thought that I probably needed a co-author because without having somebody doing all this interview that I wanted to incorporate in the book, it would be difficult to put together a meaningful book. So we teamed up, and between Drake and myself, we knocked out the book in 5 months.
Wow. Well, it has so much depth. It's very exciting, and it was actually difficult to decide what questions to ask you. I spent an hour and a half just trying to figure out questions to begin to get some of the great information that you have to share. So let's start with, what are intrapersonal skills, and why is that important?
As the title of the book suggests, we talk about how everything connects. So obviously, if you want to understand how to connect the dot with yourself and the rest of the world, you first have to understand who you are and what you stand for and what is authentic to you and what is meaningful to you, and how does that authenticity manifest into the world that you want to create for yourself, but also that impacts others. So when we talk about these intrapersonal skills, I'm really talking about how do you figure out what is it that you stand for, and how do you cultivate your authentic calling that becomes or that manifests into a value that you want to create for others.
And there's so much depth that you could go into here, but I'm just wondering if you could just give a simple, just one idea of how somebody might do that. What might be a good way to start if somebody's listening and going, well, I never thought about what I want. I'm thinking about what the company wants. So what's a good way to start with that?
It's actually very fundamental, right, in the sense that if we are not pursuing something that makes us happy, it's hard to be passionate about it. But what makes us happy is a very deep question, right? And a lot of us can't find what is it that makes us happy unless and until we go through several phases of our lives. So to find out who you are, it really requires you to be mindful or to be aware and to listen to your heart and kind of look into what is it that you want to do as a person, and what is it that you want to drive yourself to build up your skill set or your talent that can impact others or impact your company or impact your organization. So combination of being aware and being devoted to your calling and having ritualistic practice so that you can become better at your skill is a way to improve and pursue your authentic self. It's almost like, I always use this. I love to cook, but I cook as a hobby, not as a profession. The more you cook, the better you get at it. Or it's like currency. The more you do it, the better you get at it. It's something like that.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And can you say how that relates to interpersonal skills and how one develops those?
Since we're talking about writing a book and writing, this particular book, I don't think I ever, when I was younger, I didn't think that I would be an author. That was not my calling. At least I didn't know that was my calling. And I previously written other books that are around leadership and management. And I did those things kind of from more from my head than from my heart. And over the years, I discovered that I really like writing from my heart, and that has become one of my calling. I had to discover that as a self-discovery. And what I also realized that more I write, the more natural it gets, and I'm not writing for anybody. I'm just writing for myself. And ironically, or it's coincidentally, I guess that's how life works, that more I write for myself, more audience I get, more people wants to read what I'm writing for myself. So it's been a ritualistic practice, that kind of got me into writing and becoming an author, which I didn't really set out to do. It's kind of a self-discovery process that I found along the way. I mean, by profession and by training, I'm a technologist and I build technology companies. So it's kind of interesting for a technologist and a technology entrepreneur to become a writer, more specifically to want to write about your heart and soul and how does that connect with your passion and spirit, and then ultimately how it impacts organization and value creation. So I had to kind of discover that along the way. And this ritualistic practice of writing every weekend kind of got me where I am in terms of my writing, and what I found that to be a calling, one of my calling in my life.
That's beautiful, and you're speaking right to me, so I appreciate what you just said. And the interpersonal skills, relationships, I'm really interested in that because I do consulting and coaching in corporations, and I find that a lot of companies think that doing the task at hand is so important that you don't really need to pay any attention to if the people in the company are relating to each other, or even how you relate to the customer. And so could you say a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. Because, see, this applies to everybody, but this is very applicable if you are a leader that's leading any part of your organization, in the sense that if you don't know who you are, and if you don't know what you stand for, and if you don't know what you are trying to accomplish and what you're fighting for, it's very difficult to have a leadership role, right? So that's number one. Second is that if you want to lead other people, that leadership, especially now more than ever, comes from inspiration and influencing. It's not that that command control kind of leadership doesn't work, because people have a lot more option now than ever, right? So if you want to inspire and influence, then you have to be aware or be mindful of what other people are motivated by, which is not necessarily always about money. There's all sorts of intrinsic value that people are looking for from their work and their work environment. So you have to be then aware of, that type of, way of leading and thinking about other people. And the third, which is your outside ecosystem, could be your customer, could be your partner, could be your distributor, whatever the case may be. You have to be aware of what connects your brand and your offering with that outside ecosystem. And if you look at what happens time and time again, people buy things from companies that are aspirational, that people can relate to emotionally, not just from a concrete product or service point of view. So if you look at the technology we use, we have gone to affinity of a particular brand idea. So look at Apple, or look at these brands, other brands, and even if you look at Starbucks as another example, which is not technology, it's something else. All of these brands has created this emotional affinity with their customer by being very aware of what customers gets motivated by emotionally and intrinsically, right? So if you look at these three connections, meaning who you are, how you are aware of about yourself, how you lead other people with their awareness or how they get motivated, and then you take it one step further in terms of your customer, partner, and that ecosystem. All of these things are kind of interconnected, and it comes from that interpersonal skill and having a confidence or a awareness that connects yourself with the rest of the world emotionally, not just from a analytically. So that's the key to any type of success.
So it's really two things. It's one, just having that awareness that it's important to do all those, and then secondly, developing the skills to be able to actually implement it or make it happen.
That's correct. So it starts with the awareness, and then it gets the execution element of it, which is the next level of hurdle, right? Because if you're going to execute with that kind of awareness, you may have to completely shift your leadership style. You may have to completely think differently how you package your product, how you send your message around your offering to your customer, how you motivate your distributor and partners that doesn't work for you. All that then becomes the next level of execution hurdle. That revolves around how you structure your organization, how you create your, a systemic business architecture that connects all these things, et cetera, et cetera.
And because you have that map of this, how everything connects, it helps you to notice where that's not happening.
That's right. It's like, often enough, which I can tell from my own career, there were times when I thought I came up with brilliant ideas, thoughts, products, concrete products that solves a lot of problems. I failed to connect with my audience because I was strictly thinking from my point of view, and I was strictly thinking from an analytical point of view. I didn't really concentrate on these emotional elements that's very much required to connect with your audience. And it failed, regardless of the brilliance of the product or services or the thought that I have had. So you can't separate this intangible and tangible asset, the combination of intangible and tangible asset that creates the true value.
It's beautiful. I don't know if I'm backing up here, but I love your example of the reptile and the mammal.
Yes.
Would you share that with us?
It's really the psychological pattern that makes a particular group act in a way and doesn't allow you to act in a certain way. So that's what we really meant, in the sense that we can look at humans' behavior and psychological makeup and how they interact with each other and how they interact with themselves. You can put people in those kind of categories, and if you have a mammal mentality, you act in a way, and if you have a reptile mentality, you act in a different way. One is nurturing, another one is aggressive, and you kind of to be successful, you kind of have to have both kind of behavioral pattern. But if you weigh in one way versus another, you become disconnected with yourself and the world that you're trying to interact with.
Beautiful.
And as you know, it's a very deep topic that we go into several pages, so it's kind of hard to summarize in a short answer.
I know that's one of the challenges of asking you these questions. Can you talk to us about how to seek? You talked about the importance of connecting with different people, and I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how to seek out opportunities to connect and what makes that important.
Well, see, the connection, today's world, people immediately think about digital connection and network of tribes and all those terms. You can actually look at it at a very fundamental level, in the sense that you have to really connect with with the people that you're working with, as an example. So, for example, if I was not very much connected with my co-author, we wouldn't have a cohesive book, as an example, right? If I'm not connected with my product developers and my marketing team and my sales team, I wouldn't be able to create an effective product that I can take out to the market. So when we talk about connection in the book, we're really talking about a very fundamental level of connection. Take, for example, if you write a blog, as an example, and you are trying to get a message out there, and your message is very important, and it's very sound in terms of your thinking. But if you do not connect with your audience, with whatever the message that you're trying to portray, and if they don't connect with you emotionally, they're not going to get the benefit of your brilliant thinking, right? So it goes all level when we're talking about the importance and the needs of connection. It's not just one-dimensional. It's very multidimensional. And to be really able to connect, one of the things we use in the book is you have to be, consciously omnivorous. What we meant by that is that you have to have the willingness to experience all kind of experience, and that allows you to foster your, ability to connect with other people despite different situations you may be put in, or despite your own biases and your background.
So you have to be curious about others. not just your own point of view or the way you look at things, but you have to.
Absolutely. And and I found, and this was one of my really a aha moment in my own career when I started to work with different type of people on different type of projects that are completely unrelated and all walks of the life. That's when I found my creativity at my highest level. And when I started my career, I was, into it, for the most part, it was, singularly focused, and it was kind of one-dimensional. I wasn't working with, writers and journalists and authors and, artists and chefs and whatnot, which I did in a later stage of my life. But when I started doing that, that's when my corporate background and my entrepreneurial background and my technology background combined with totally different walks of life and different culture and different parts of the world, that's when I started to experience a different level of creativity and different level of inspiration that I wouldn't have otherwise have.
That's beautiful. And, as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about how many companies I've worked in where the people don't have any connection with each other.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's, in the large corporation, I know this from not just working with the large corporation, but being an employee of large organization, which I, as you said initially in my intro, that I work for GE and Dun & Bradstreet and Pitney Bowes and whatnot. I mean, it is very easy to be trapped inside few cubicles and never see the day of the light, right?
Yeah.
So, and often enough we do that. And actually, it's not just large corporation. You can do that even in small companies where you just shut yourself down and you don't necessarily are allowing yourself to be integrated with the rest of the people. This is both the individual and organizational responsibility, by the way. It's not just organizational responsibility to break down the silo. It's your responsibility as a person to make sure that you are allowing yourself and you're putting yourself in a place where you are able to experience a lot of different type of experiences and different types of people and skills and culture that expands the horizon of your thinking and your ability and creativity, so that you can perform at your best, whatever that goal is. It's not that you just have to become a CEO, but just it's you can look at it just simply as enrichment of your own life. How would you like to eat hamburger every day? I mean, I love hamburger, but I wouldn't want to eat it every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it goes same way with work. I mean, if you want to learn something different and you want to experience something different, if you are a graphic designer, you may want to go sit down with an engineer. If you're an engineer, you may want to sit down with a graphic designer and think how the graphic designer thinks, right? Or if you are a finance person, maybe you want to sit down with your sales team and see how they interact with people to sell the product that allows you to actually make the money. Right, so it's that kind of thinking is what makes a difference. It's and that's why actually one of the argument I make that as much as we talk about this work-life balance, it's a false notion. Who you are at work is who you are at home, and who you are at home is who you become at work. So whatever you like to be experiencing in your life, that's what you ought to be practicing at your work if you want to have complete fulfillment from your work.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's worth people backing up and listening to this several times, because if they got this one idea, the whole world would change. It's such an incredible idea. See, this is also goes back to this very notion of authenticity, right? Authentic people do not try to pretend to be somebody else, or they don't try to live different lives. I mean, you have one life, and you have one life to live, so therefore your work life and everything else should be the same person and be authentic about it, right? And that's when your real success comes from. And I don't mean success by making gobs of money. It's the
fulfillment. That's the definition of success.
Exactly. When you were talking about connecting work, I thought, and that goes for with your husband or wife or with your children,
absolutely.
At every level, absolutely. You talk about that a woman could develop her career by developing transferable skills, and in the beginning of this interview, you said it's important to keep doing things that you have happiness or have some excitement about. So can you carry that on to what that would mean in terms of transferable skills?
Yeah, I mean, and I actually experimented this quite a bit with myself. So, I was kind of tongue-in-cheek talking about cooking. When I was in college, I had to make a living any means possible. So I started working for these French bistro, and as a result, the owner, she taught me how to cook, and then I developed this passion for cooking. Now, whenever I want to solve a problem and I want to experiment, I go back to that notion of cooking because I never cook with a recipe, so I'm constantly experimenting. So if you're a product developer, if you're an innovator, which I have been in product development my entire life, I apply that similar kind of thinking. It's like I'm not afraid to mix, let's say, a cumin with let's say soy sauce. It's just using it as a metaphor. So you have to be bold enough to be able to experiment. So this is what I mean by transformable skill. Or let's say how I relate to my son who's 12 years old is something that allows me, and I've taken the similar approach when I try to explain certain things with difficult audience, on when the audience is not trying to respond to me. I take that kind of patternistic approach, try to break down things that could be understandable by a larger audience. So these are just two examples of like daily life things that you can apply in a work life, and that's again what I meant by that. If we try to work the way we try to live, if we're a better parent, we're probably a better worker. If we're a better cook, we're probably a better product developer. It's funny how it works, but that's very true. And I've kind of I had to learn this by making many, many mistakes. I had to learn to apply this kind of fundamental thinking. These are not perhaps most sophisticated thinking in organizational psychology and whatnot, but these are very fundamental but very effective thinking.
I just interviewed 20 people in a department at a large company. And when each person came in and started talking to me, I asked them, what's your background and how does that relate to the job you have now? And I think for most of them, they had never even thought of it. And their answers, you could see the kind of the delight coming on their face as they realized, for instance, that their 10 years in theater had helped them become a better manager in a corporation. Because they had people skills.
Absolutely.
So it's really good to know that. And to finish up this interview, I wonder if you would tell us what knowledge discovering actions are.
Knowledge discovery. Say that again.
Knowledge discovering actions. You said basically to develop an awareness of the phenomena happening inside and outside you.
Yes. So yeah. I mean, actually, what we really, it's a very deep and broad topic, but in a high level point of view, everything has a pattern, right? So, for example, you can think of a blueprint of a house, right? So when you look at a blueprint, you can see how your window connects to the door and the door connects with your, kitchen, et cetera. So you have to kind of have the ability to connect these kind of dots by recognizing the different patterns of whether it's an organization or whether it's a product or whether it's a customer segment, whatever the case may be. This ability to study pattern is kind of way to discovering knowledge inside and outside. And we use Da Vinci as an example, which is a very old example, but it's very effective in the sense that those days where there was no digital anything, technology was far behind. Da Vinci was, drawing these things up, and he was drawing those things up to connect those dots, and then try to figure out how it works, right? So it's that kind of thinking. It's that pattern recognition allows you to kind of discover the knowledge within us as well as outside of us.
Beautiful. And I hope that everyone listening will really pay attention and begin to connect the dots and the patterns in every aspect of their life. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. To get a free sample chapter of my new upcoming program, the Winning Career Training Course, go to www.womensleadershipsuccess.com and sign up for the form that appears on the right called Great Leaders Today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for joining your host, Sabrina Braham, on another Women's Leadership Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email her at sabrina@sabrinabraham.com. Since 1989, Sabrina and her team have helped hundreds of women managers, business leaders, and entrepreneurs with valuable trainings, articles, books, and executive coaching. For additional tips, interviews, and free access to Great Leaders Today mini course, visit www.womensleadershipsuccess.com.